Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1699, and today's date is October 25th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Time Is Now. Warnings, Confirmations, Prepare. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been seeing many different indicators showing us that the economy's been falling apart. And I'm not just saying we've been seeing the indicators just in the last couple of months. We've been watching this entire economy be built up with a gigantic illusion by manipulating the statistical numbers, while we look behind the scenes showing that this economy is not real. We've seen Trump manipulate the statistical information even more. And we said, nope, this is not true either. We showed why he was doing this. This was a specific purpose. We said that he would contradict the Fed, and he continually does this. Actually, he says the Fed, if they continually raise rates, they're going to wreck the economy. We already know that if the Fed continually raises rates, because we've been tracking this throughout history, every time the Fed raises their rates, the economy falls apart. We already know that the economy is going to fall apart sometime in the middle of 2019. That doesn't mean it implodes at that time. That means they hit the point, that neutral point of interest rates, where everything just starts to collapse. And it's almost like an avalanche where you hear the boom and you see up top a little dust from the snow, and it builds as it comes down the hill or the mountain. And before you know it, it's gigantic. Well, in the middle of 2019, when they hit that neutral point of interest rates, that's the little smoke on the top of the mountain. And every month after that, you're going to see it build and build and build, just like we saw back in 2008. We saw that the interest rates hit a certain point in 2006 going into 2007. They started to drop them rapidly, but it already began. The avalanche started to come down. And it took about a year or so after that. And as we approached it, behind the scenes, if you didn't look at the stock market, you didn't look at the unemployment numbers, you didn't look at the GDP numbers and everything else, you saw businesses start to lay off people. You saw companies start to have problems. We're seeing this almost exactly in the same way, except it's much, much worse. Before the interest rates were even raised, before anything happened, we saw retail fall apart. Before the interest rates went up, we talked about real estate and how sales were slowing. Before the stock market came down, before anything happened, we were showing how everything has been falling apart, and now it's just accelerating. And it's going to get worse. This is why, a very long time ago, we said prepare. For those people who have been rotating their goods out, for those people that have been purchasing, food from like Costco or Sam's or wherever you're getting it, BJ's, wherever you're getting it, it doesn't make a difference. Even if you're getting it from a supermarket, as long as you're continually stocking up, as long as you're purchasing or swapping your paper money for gold or silver, as long as you have cryptos, as long as you have something. Because as we know, when this system falls apart, implodes, the dollar is not going to be worth anything. They will be moving to a different system. And we know the pensions, most likely they're not going to be there. The amount of debt that we have is astronomical. And those still in the central bank that love the central bank, they manipulated the FICO scores. Now, this started a while ago, but you can see how they have to keep everyone in debt, and they need everyone to take out even more debt. And this was planned quite a while ago because they knew that there was going to be a certain point where they were going to have to change things to keep the system going a little bit longer. And they were also expecting an event. At this point, they thought we were going to be in the beginning stages, most likely, of a war. This way they can say, well, the reason why the economy is falling apart is because we're in this war. Everyone has to tighten their belt, but we're not seeing this. So they can't use that story right now. And they're trying to figure a way out of this. Now, out in the UK, we see the Brexit talks, they're on hold right now. They can't agree on anything. The central bankers will never agree on allowing the UK to leave. Here in the United States, this is how bad it has gotten here in the United States. More than half of Americans receive more money, in various types of governmental transfer payments, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, Social Security, than they pay in federal taxes. Now, remember, this is not each and every person's fault. It's not your fault that you're in the position that you're in. The central banking system is not designed to make everyone prosperous. And I know, yes, there are certain people that made out, within the central banking system. There were insiders that always make out within the central bank system. Those people, those individuals that started out in the 70s when the system just came online, well, those people had a better chance. Most of those people made out really, really well during that time frame because there wasn't that much debt. The system was in the beginning stages. There was a huge amount of inflation. But as we went along and you enter the end stage of the system, those people in the 2000s, 2008, 2009, 10, 11, where they reach the age where they're going to go out and work, they're coming out of college, these people, they're struggling. And the system is not designed to continue on forever like this. This is why they have to keep resetting it. But what the central banks and the deep state have done is they wanted everyone enslaved and dependent on the government. Because as you borrow more money, the value of the dollar decreases, jobs dry up, and especially they were doing this on purpose, remember. They were shipping all the manufacturing and everything out of this country. So to keep everyone from rioting, what do you have to do? You have to put them on government support. How do you keep government running? Well, you have to borrow more from the Fed. So this system was designed to enslave everyone. So when you look at these things like this report that came out from the Congressional Budget Office, it's showing you that people are dependent on the system and they take in a lot more than they're putting out. Now remember, the taxing of the people was put into place because of the central bank system. So this goes in hand. But the whole point of this is that they wanted everyone enslaved in the system. And now it's time to get out of this system. When we start to look at different economic indicators here in the United States, we talk about housing quite a bit. Pending home sales now, they have slumped for the 5th straight month in a row. So we have existing home sales, new home sales. And remember, we're coming out of the spring and summer months. We're now in October. Going to be entering November very, very soon. And what do we see? We see real estate, if we go back in time, it has done terribly during the summer seasons. And this is supposed to be the best time of year for real estate. Pending home sales dropped 3.4% year on year. This is the 10th annual decline in the last 11 months. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing the entire system fall apart. As the Fed continually raises rates, people are going to be pushed out of the real estate market. The real estate market's going to start to fall, and it's going to be just like that avalanche. Now, of course, we have Lawrence Yun. We talk about him many, many times. He's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. During the period of 2008, Lawrence Yun said that during that winter of 2008, real estate was going to pop back up and it was going to do fantastic. Actually, it got worse, and he was completely off. So what is Lawrence Yun saying now? He's saying that buyers are now on the sidelines. They're waiting to jump in once more inventory becomes available and the price is right. Well, inventory is rising right now, so there's plenty of homes out there. I mean, if you just take an overview of any city with Zillow, there are so many homes available right now. And prices are coming down. But the problem is, as rates continually move up, the prices aren't coming down fast enough. They will start to come down fast enough when the rates continually move up and people can't sell their homes. Now, we saw this back in 2007, 2008. The problem is every time the interest rates go up and the prices come down a little bit, people are pushed out of the market because it's not a one-to-one ratio here. And this is what happened back in 2008. And we're going to see the same thing happen here. And it's going to be much, much worse because we have to remember the Fed created these bubbles. The housing market was a gigantic illusion. They were hoping that people saw equity in their house and they would use this equity and use it out in retail. It didn't happen. We also see core durable goods. They haven't really gone anywhere. Actually, they are stagnant right now. Now, core durable goods are made up of transports, washers, dryers, and things like that. If you remove the transports, and this is like military aircraft and things like that, you can see that the durable goods of washers, dryers, things that people use, it has gone absolutely nowhere. Now, we also see the ECB. They are saying that they're going to end QE in December, but they're not going to change their rates. So they're going to end their stimulus, but they're going to keep their rates at zero, pretty much the same. Their marginal lending facility around 0.25%. Deposit facility at negative 0.40%. So they're just going to slow the stimulus, but they're not moving the rates. I wonder why they're not moving the rates and why the Fed is raising the rates so quickly, because we know most likely Powell is working with Trump. Trump put Powell into this position. He's been out there saying that Powell is raising rates. It's a really bad time. I don't like him, but I'm not going to fire him. Sounds like what he said about Sessions. So what we're watching right now is the Fed with Trump working together. They are bringing down the system. The ECB, they're not raising rates because they know if they raise rates right now, they are going to be blamed for the European economy falling apart. In many of these European countries, they are in a huge amount of debt. Now, Peter Schiff was out there, and he is sending up a red flare, letting everyone know that the standard of living is going to be the biggest casualty in America. And we know this because we know once the dollar starts to fall apart, and remember, a lot of people talk about the dollar and say, well, no, it's still strong. The dollar's still good. A lot of countries still use it. But once the economy starts to fall apart and countries lose faith. See, this is the problem here. The dollar is not backed by anything. And once the Middle Eastern countries decide to sell their oil using other currencies, the dollar is just sitting there, and the only thing that's backing it is the full credit and faith of the U.S. government. Well, the U.S. government's in a huge amount of debt. And countries around the world, they're not going to have faith in the dollar. A lot of countries are looking to move away from this dollar. Remember, and this is not the U.S. dollar of the people. This is a central bank note. This is a Federal Reserve note. They're the ones who create it. We owe everything back to them because they're actually loaning us the currency. So Peter Schiff is out there saying, when this starts to fall apart, people are going to have a very difficult time. He said, what you got to do is to get out of U.S. dollar assets. The dollar is going to be the biggest casualty along with the American standard of living. He said, adding that foreign stock markets, especially emerging markets, currently depressed by the strong dollar, would see a strong rise. They're going to see a boom when the dollar weakens. And when the dollar starts to fall apart, that means credit's going to fall apart, deliveries to stores is going to fall apart, and we're going to see a gigantic mess. Now, in the meantime, we know that Trump, the Patriots, they've been working on a transition plan. And they're trying to bring back manufacturing, trying to make this as easy as possible. But it's very difficult when you're getting out of a central bank system. And remember, it's not just going to be the U.S. It's going to be many other countries that are going to be going through this as well. It's going to be global. Just like we saw the Great Depression, it was global. And we're going to see the same thing happen once again. And as we go through this time period, we might see rolling blackouts. We might see problems. I mean, think about the 70s with the UK. When we were coming off the gold standard and we're going on to the petrodollar system, yes, we saw problems here like gas shortages, but out in the UK and other countries, they were having major problems. And we might see the same thing here because we're going to be losing the reserve currency. We're going to be losing what we have today, what was set up by the central bank, moving into a completely different system. I mean, once we move into the new system, it's going to be a lot easier for people because it's going to be backed by something. It's going to have checks and balances. The government just won't be able to print as much as they want. They're going to have to write off most of this debt. And maybe if they show, and I think this is maybe the plan, if they do an audit of the Fed, once they show the Fed has done illegal things by transferring funds, by propping up other countries, by doing who knows what, because they're not allowing us to audit them, once they're audited, this will allow the President of the United States to say, listen, this is fraud. This was illegal. We're not going to pay this debt because this debt was done by illegal means. And once you start probing like this, you can actually get rid of all this debt if you can show that it was done completely illegally. And if you bring in the deep state and show how they were involved in this, well, guess what? We can wipe all this out and start the system fresh. And again, when we start the system fresh, it will get easier, but we're going to have this period of time where everyone needs to be prepared. We're seeing all the indicators. We're seeing all the confirmations. The time is now. You need to get prepared for what is coming. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.